Hey everyone, I'm hoping you're having a scary Halloween. My plan was to get Dracula out today, and it is nearly finished. However, it won't be out today because I have someone who needed to re-record some lines. But I did not want to leave you all alone, empty-handed, without something on Halloween. So please enjoy this trick-or-treat story. Trick-or-treat. I always enjoyed going trick-or-treating. But I also liked staying home and handing out candy. When I got older and lived by myself, I lived in a nice neighborhood. The kids were big into trick-or-treating in that area. I always had a ton of candy, and I just loved watching kids and adults in costumes roaming the streets and looking for candy. With so many people out trick-or-treating, it would be difficult to remember any one costume for any real amount of time. But there really was one thing that would make a particular costume stand out, and that would be behavior. There was a guy who was dressed up as Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Not only did he have a great costume, but he also had one of those prop chainsaws that do not have a chain on them. He was having a lot of fun, running back and forth, chasing kids and parents, most of them laughing and having a good time. A few kids got a little scared, but when he noticed that was the case, he was nice and he would back off. I remember spending a good deal of time watching this character on that Halloween night. In contrast to his costume, he seemed like a really friendly, happy-go-lucky guy. He indeed made the entire thing a lot more fun than it would have been without him. Later that night, when things had calmed down a bit, I curled up with a bowl of popcorn and something to drink. I was ready to just relax and watch a scary movie or two before going to bed. Honestly, I couldn't even remember what movie I was watching, but it was creepy. That was when I got a phone call. I picked it up and said, "Hello?" There was someone on the other end, but they were not speaking. I asked who it was and received no answer. After a few moments, I got tired of it and I hung up the phone. I can't recall actually how much time passed before I heard the phone ring again. Again, there was definitely someone on the other end. As before, though, this person did not respond to me at all. They just listened to me, and all I could hear was the breath of a man on the other end of the line. I hung up the phone. By this point, I was pretty freaked out by what had happened. I told myself that if he was to call back even one more time, I would hang up and call the police. I mean, it wasn't completely unusual to get a prank phone call on Halloween. People on Halloween like to play jokes on each other, but I did decide that a third call would definitely be going way too far. I went back to watching my movie, and I mostly forgot about the calls. Another call did not come through, though, so I figured whoever was playing the prank was just going to move on to the next prank. As I was sitting, I then saw some movement through one of my windows. It caught my attention, and I looked over at the window. Although I had only seen it for a moment, there was someone watching me through the window. I really did not get a very good look at him, though. It was so sudden. I went up and walked over to the window, looking out. I didn't see anyone at first, but then I noticed it. That man that was dressed as Leatherface was outside, and he was walking into my backyard. I cannot describe how scared that made me. I went over to the phone and quickly called the police. They sent someone out to the house. They told me to simply remain inside, and suddenly I heard a pounding on my back door. I froze in fear. There was, of course, no way I was going to answer that door. But there it was again. It was a really hard pounding as well, and seemed somewhat anxious. I just stopped and waited, hoping the police would get there soon. I watched as the flashing lights appeared, and 2 officers went into my backyard. There wasn't any commotion really, and in a few moments, I noticed them leading someone in cuffs out of my backyard. But it wasn't the Leatherface guy. It was someone else. The Leatherface guy was walking free with the cops. There was a knock on my front door. The Leatherface guy was at the door, but he was not wearing his mask. I was nervous, but I opened the door, and he was standing there with one cop. Well, it turned out the man dressed as Leatherface was an off-duty police officer. He had been outside and noticed someone sneaking into my backyard. He went in the back, confronted the guy, and then arrested him. The cop had been knocking on my door to explain what was going on. The man who had called me and snuck into my backyard turned out to be a serial rapist. It chills me deeply to think he may have hurt me, and it's ironic to me that the person who saved me was dressed as a fictional serial killer.